Brother News. I'm Gabe.
James.
And we're brothers. And it's a slow news week, so we've got 4 blocks. We've got a Trump block. We'll cover things such as how many dolls do we need, how many pencils, new trade deal with Britain, what a deal, tariffs on movies, Bribe coin, the cost to the U.S. taxpayer of Trump's pardons. We're all wondering if the president should uphold the Constitution or not. Even the president is wondering. Alcatraz, parade of bullshit, cabinet meeting, a particular kind of cabinet meeting that we'll characterize more vulgarly later. There's a mixed block where we'll talk a little bit about the new Pope, who isn't going to be Trump, despite what you may have seen. FEMA switching to grant money so they can withhold it from blue states. ICE holding teachers in Hawaii, Filipino teachers. There's a Hegseth block. We'll talk about telemessage gate, such hack, the makeup room in the Pentagon, and some of the new chats that we've been hearing about. And then we've got a war block. India and Pakistan are at war, which totally wouldn't have happened if Trump was president. Oh, wait. There's Ukraine taking out aircraft from an unmanned sea drone, which is pretty fucking awesome. We'll talk a little bit about fiber optic drones, and then we'll talk about the Houthis, who are giving up by upgrading to ballistic cruise missiles that they're getting from foreign governments. So lots to talk about. Which block do you want to start with?
Oh shoot. I don't know. Might as well start from the top, man. You know,
okay.
Everything.
Yeah. So Trump did this interview with I can't remember who was it. Was it NBC? ABC? Christian Walker.
Well.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of like boneheaded quotes in there. One of them is this thing about, he's like, oh, you said your prices were gonna come down, and like now you're saying how like there's gonna be some pain, for a while. Like, what should people expect? And he's like, little girls don't need 30 dolls. They can just do with like 2 or 3 dolls, and maybe they'll cost a couple of bucks more, but that's fine. Like, they don't need that many dolls. And like, how many, they don't need 30 pencils. They could do with like 2 pencils or maybe 3 pencils. Like, that's plenty of pencils, because, he hasn't been a child since the Great Depression. So, yeah. I mean, just to give him a little credit, okay? Like, there is a rampant consumerism in America that if we're just over marketed to. We do buy a lot of shit we don't need.
That's what people like. That's what people want.
I mean, I agree with the sentiment. However, I think as like a policy of taking away the option of things by starting a trade war that you're absolutely going to lose, to trying to accomplish something that is
he doesn't know what
never going to happen, and because you don't understand how the world works, that part's pretty shit.
Not even that. He doesn't even understand. Like, I was listening to other people talking today, and they really just said it best, because I mean, really, like, Donald Trump always says it himself. He was like, "Oh, we're losing so much money to China. We're losing so much money to China." Trade deficit to him means you're losing money. Period. And actually, it was it was Lawrence O'Donnell made a point the best. He's like, "All right, so in his mind, if you buy a Kia, you're losing money because you bought a Kia. If you bought a Ford, you're not losing money." Even if the Kia costs less than the Ford, you didn't lose any money by buying the Ford. You only lost money by buying the Kia. It's just stupid.
Let's just like let's game it out in like in good faith, okay? Like whatever they call it. It's like steel manning the argument, right? Like trying to argue in favor of the dumb argument.
Be
So
hard.
like the idea is that if you buy Ford, the shareholders of Ford are Americans. The CEO of Ford is American. He spends his money in America. The employees of Ford are people who live in America, so they're going to spend their money on American housing and American food and American roads and American gas, etc. They're going to pay American taxes, so the money stays in the system. The problem is that that with the way that trade is global, that even when you buy the Ford, some of the parts were made in Canada, some of the parts were made in Mexico, stuff was assembled in different places. Even the parts that were made in America were made with raw materials that we bought from another country. And the whole process of creating all these parts and assembling the car requires hundreds of parts moving back and forth across the border dozens of times before the car is completed. So the idea that the money is staying anywhere with basically anything is farcical.
Yeah, and let's not forget Nissan, who makes most of their stuff in here in America, in Tennessee. I mean, it's a foreign car company, but they're employing Americans, working at an American plant, assembling it here in America. Oops, but it's a foreign car.
Are they tariffing Nissans?
Of course.
My God, it's so
Everything.
dumb.
Everything.
But I mean, I know even the Fords are getting tariffed by the car stuff. Cars are just going to cost more.
Because nothing is 100% sourced within the country. It's not like a Lada. We don't have Russian Ladas. That's 100% Russian car right there, man, and it's shitty. But yeah. But he doesn't understand. He thinks you're losing money if you buy something from somebody else. I mean, we're wasting all that money on coffee. God, just losing. We're losing because of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, well, really, it's just specialization and different supply chains. We would rather have the job of designing the iPhone rather than digging the minerals up out of the ground or building the factory that does all of the machine pressing to create the parts, or being a factory full of laborers who are screwing things together and gluing stuff and putting it in the package. Because none of that pays very well.
Yeah, but don't worry. Remember, he promised 90 deals in 90 days. Okay.
And so we're past 100 days, and we've had how many deals?
No, we're at 27 days since he said that. And day 27, or day 28 now, since, the 90 deals in 90 days, they almost got the first framework of a deal that they announced with a lot of fanfare in the Oval Office, which was almost hilarious. And the fact that, just like we're going to probably talk about the cabinet meeting, they had to start off with they had to deflate the president, first. So there's nobody else in the world that could have made a deal but him. He's the only reason this came together during his week of golfing and everything else, and his interview disasters and all the other stuff, and apparently all of the renovating stuff that he's in charge of, because he's taken over all the first lady duties. But during all that, he's the only one who could have made this non-deal deal happen, which isn't a deal because it hasn't been signed by anybody. Any deals have to get signed by Congress and their parliament and the president and their prime minister, and nobody has signed anything. But they acted like it's a big deal. Whereas, the first 100,000 vehicles that come from the UK will only get a 10,000 or 10% tariff. Anything else still gets 25%. And they're going to drop their tariffs on American beef. And we want to streamline stuff, and we're going to commit to working together on some other things, and we are committing to secure a supply chain for pharmaceutical products, and and they're going
which
to
we
negotiate,
need because we get most of our pharmaceuticals from China,
and we're going to negotiate on the tariffs on steel and aluminum. That's the deal, and everything else will still have a 10% tariff. That's the quote deal. So it's not really a deal, and they were yucking it up and laughing about having less tariffs on those Rolls Royces. They did get a carve out for Rolls Royces and stuff, and the high end stuff. because while Americans need to get less dolls for their kids, they really told him, "Oh man, these Rolls Royce cars come from the UK," and he started talking about how much he would like that. Last time you guys started talking to me about cars, I ended up buying a Tesla. Maybe I have to buy a Rolls Royce now. So yeah,
he's just
so in touch with the
yeah,
forgotten
no,
man.
he's just like an average, like an everyman. He's like one of us.
He's one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what else was there? What else was there in that interview? So I know there was the part about should he uphold the Constitution, which we'll get to, but there was another thing besides that in the dolls that was like another big thing that he said, and I'm totally blanking on it. Do you remember any other things from that interview?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, and the big takeaways everybody was talking about it was because he basically admitted after a couple of questions that yes, prices go up, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? We'll be better off for it. People need to get ready. It's a transition. He told everybody that this was going to happen before the election. He doesn't know why everybody's so surprised because he told everybody there would be a transition period. Don't you remember that? Don't you remember that? How immediately on day one everything would be great again, and after he got elected, he said it was great again, and now the economy's back and everything's perfect. But now he's saying he told everybody there'd be a transition. There'd be pain. I remember that from the debate.
He said he was going to bring prices down on day one.
Day one, yeah. Now he's claiming that gas is $1.92 a gallon, and price of eggs has come down 80-90%. Even though
as the owner of a Tesla and potential Rolls Royce buyer, I mean, he's really plugged into the gas prices.
Yeah, obviously not. Well, just to let it be said, when he said gas is down to $1.98 somewhere, it was not that anywhere. And he also did say that he'd have no problem releasing his medical reports, which he won't. He never has. He also said that he could get him back. He said he could get Abrego Garcia back. Sure, all he has to do is pick up a phone and he's back.
Which we all knew that's all it would take.
Everybody
all it would take to facilitate it back is to call him up and be like, hey, can you send him back? We'll pay for the flight. Thanks.
Yeah,
sure, he'll be there in 8 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but he already said that, yeah, he can do that, which is coming up in court now because Judge Boasberg is still with that case, and they're like, the president just said he can bring him back. So that's that thing. So, yeah. And so that stuff some of that stuff is a little embarrassing, and that's why he's spewing his nonsense about tariffs on movies and Alcatraz. He wants to bring back Alcatraz. It's all just a bunch of shit, just a bunch of noise, because everybody's going to talk about it.
Alcatraz is a particularly
stupid.
Like Alcatraz is like it's like when he's talking about like the late great Hannibal Lecter, where he just like knows about something from pop culture, so he like.
Yeah,
he just like name drops it, and then he's like, "Yeah, name drop plus some policy. That's how I govern. Just out here governing it up with, Michael Jordan, king of basketballs. We're gonna make a new law on basketballs. It'll be the biggest law forever of all the." And he just like makes hype noises. But like the Alcatraz thing in particular is really really stupid because Alcatraz is a tourist destination, and it makes about $60 million a year in income as a tourist destination. But part of the reason that they closed it is because it was notoriously expensive to operate because it's far away from everything. And if you're an employee, you got to get out there and get back every day. You got to get supplies out there and back. You got to get power out there and back. So it would cost over $100 million a year. Plus, you wouldn't be having tourist income anymore. So it really would cost $160 million a year to run it. And for that price, it can hold less than 100 people. Like, for what? Like, it is the least efficient. Like, where's Elon when we need him? Like, where's the Department of Government Efficiency stepping in to be like, wait a second, we could just do anything else and save us so much money.
But again, they don't care about saving money. They never have. I mean, that's what he's going to be spending billions of dollars golfing on the taxpayer dime.
Well, that's part of the new. That's part of the new budget. So like they're cutting. The new budget proposed by the Republicans has $0 for FEMA, but it has $300 million for Trump's golfing.
Well, they're falling short by $1 billion still, because that's how much he's charging us. But
Unbelievable.
yeah, but yeah, that and the military parade. He wants all the tanks rolling down
On his
Pennsylvania
birthday.
Avenue on his birthday. He said it doesn't matter what it costs. The value is so much more. People may not be able to afford dolls and stuff or whatever, buy his stuff, but there's value in having a military parade for him on his birthday.
I think it's just...
Hey, Steelman that shit. Steelman it for me.
Okay. Oh,
Steelman,
God.
why the military parade for his birthday is more important than
Okay,
Christmas,
so...
Christmas for the kids.
God, okay. Let me try.
Christmas for the kids versus Donald Trump's birthday.
So look, America has the greatest military on earth because we spend the most money on it. Okay? But signups are down. Okay? Like, everybody in America is like overweight, lazy, and like doesn't want to die or like have their limbs blown off so they can kill poor people just to like buy Trump another Rolls Royce so he has 3 or however the fuck many. So we need something to get people excited. Okay? So like we're going to run like the tanks down the street and like Trump is going to be out there with his like 6'4", 225 linebacker frame, just like looking jacked on a tank. Maybe he'll take his shirt off, like do like a Putin on a horse thing, but on a tank, because Trump. Like there'll be some planes flying over. Like we'll probably get a lot of troops out there, just like walking down the street, like marching in formation. That's like we haven't done it. Like when is America, brought out that small dick energy and marched it down the street in front of some cameras to a NASCAR crowd, like we need more crowds. And it'll probably be great for recruitment because, as JD Vance was saying, like we're going to invest so much in our military because they're definitely going to go to war soon, like with Greenland, because we got to like secure Greenland or buy it for like $100K for each of the citizens. It's like, fuck, what's money? Money is just taxes from poor people. So like we can always just raise that and then, it'll be fine.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm not sold. Anyway.
Well, that's all I got. That's all I got for that one. I don't know. It's.
By the way, I put a link in there. It says Donald Trump's past and present car collection. Just if I want to see his Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Tesla Roadsters and Mercedes Benz McLarens and his Cadillac and his Rolls Royce.
And like he doesn't even drive.
No, he can't. He hasn't been able to drive since 2016. Yeah, he hasn't been able to drive since 2016.
Like Trump should just like pull an Oprah and just like be like, you get a car and you get a car and you get a deportation and you get a car and you get a deportation and you get a sex scandal.
Yeah, but those
you
cars
get a
like Enrique Otario or something,
signal login. You get a night in an old prison.
Well, I wonder if he would have given that car to Enrique Otario. As you may or may not know, a couple days ago, him and Donald Trump were hanging out partying together at Mar-a-Lago. He's the one who was given a 22-year sentence, for January 6th and seditious conspiracy, and is planning everything out with weapons caches and everything else. He was one of the people who got pardoned. Obviously by Trump, former leader of the Proud Boys. Or if he'd get a car.
Of course.
Bribe coin.
Bribe coin. So like I've heard people talking about how he's using it for bribes.
Obviously.
But every time I hear about it, okay, they're calling it a meme coin.
Yes.
No, it is a bribe coin. And everyone needs to start using the phrase bribe coin. Like I'm shocked that like I haven't been hearing it from everyone. They're connecting the dots. They're just not using the phrase. Like it's right there, guys. I offered up for free. Like
this is pretty great too. Actually, I found a good article on CNBC actually about it. 58 crypto wallets have made millions on Trump's meme coin. 764,000 people have lost money. God.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, this article is from 2 days ago actually, so pretty good. Wow.
It's a tax on poor simps and rich criminals.
But he gets on the transaction fees anyway. You know,
Yeah, he gets all the fees.
he gets all the fees. So like when Abu Dhabi bribed him with a couple $1 billion, and somebody else bribed him with a couple $100 million, and it doesn't matter what the value of the money is. He's getting the transaction fees anyway. Granted, when they do buy it, the price spikes. Then hey, he can sell a whole bunch of his and make millions again.
I mean, it is the most like
Obvious.
on its face, like
Oh yeah,
like obvious, just scam, bribery thing possible. It's just like, yeah, hey, just anyone can give me money, and then there's like, show me your receipts and ask for your favors in person. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah. And May 22nd, man, if you want, if dozens of our fans, if anybody's listening, if you want to be able to get whatever you could get out of Donald Trump, all you have to do is buy a few $100 million worth of Trump coins. And if so you can get on May 22nd at his National Trump Club, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the 25 biggest wallets, if you're one of the 25 biggest stakeholders in Trump meme coin, you can go to the White House and have a personalized tour from Donald Trump personally at the White House.
Top 100 gets a dinner. Top 25 get one-on-one tours.
Yep. And I'm sure while he's giving you a tour, you can ask him for stuff.
Of course. I mean,
maybe
what else are you going to do?
Maybe you have somebody, maybe you have a J6er in your life that you want a pardon for. That's like easy, quick way to get it.
Maybe you yourself were recently...
Maybe you're P. Diddy. Maybe you're a lawyer for P. Diddy.
Dude, that would be the smartest. Honestly, that would be the best. That would
be the way. That's what Mark Garagos should be doing.
P. Diddy should do.
Mark Garagos right now in the P. Diddy thing, even though not following it big time, is talk about how they have like a 6-pack of women attorneys or something on the prosecution. Mark Garagos should just donate. Hey, P. Diddy, give me a few $100 million, man. I'll donate to Trump, buy his meme coins, go up there and I'll get you a pardon. That's what you should do.
Seriously, that's exactly what he should do.
Gets everybody else pardons. All you need is money. Give money to Trump and he'll give you a pardon. Done it over and over and over and over again.
Should probably give him a discount because he respects him for being a rapist.
Yeah.
That does seem to be one of his.
Just have like a little it'd be like a joy book for like the Mormon, those other one people, have a joy book, and P. Diddy can show him all the women he's trafficked, and he'll say, hey, I probably got some teenagers for you too, John.
See, Jeffrey's gone. I could be your Black Jeff.
Exactly. Epstein's gone.
Epstein Diddy. Wow. Jesus. That's so dark. Okay, let's go over what's on the topic of pardons. I'm just going to talk about some of the pardons by numbers. We'll have a link to this video. So these are some numbers put together by a current attorney who formerly was employed by the Justice Department and worked on pardons under a previous administration. So she's breaking down something. So there are a bunch of people who, as part of their sentence, had to pay restitution to the government. So like they embezzled, they stole money, they did some scam, something. They did whatever their different crimes were, okay? They ended up owing the government lots of money. And all those people have been pardoned by Trump. I mean, we don't know why. We don't know if they're going to the dinner, they bought the coins, who knows which way they grease the palms. But here's a few of them, okay? So there's Ross Ulbricht, or Ulbright, Ulbricht, who had a forfeiture. He was going to have to pay the government $183,961,921. There's HDR Global Trading Ltd. They were fined $100 million. There's Trevor Milton, who was going to have to pay a restitution of $660,880. And then there's a whole bunch of other people who are in the $70,000 to $10 million, or no, $70,000 to $43 million range. And this is like the front page of people. These aren't even all the people, but just this like 20 people owed 1,192,000,000, or wait, am I reading this right? I'm sorry, 1,192,401,142.83. So like his pardons, in addition to him making money on them, he's giving away money that the U.S. government would have received, at least $1 billion, which would have been more than enough. Like this $1 billion would have been more than enough to fund NPR and PBS for a decade, and give him a military parade every year of that decade, if he had just not pardoned these 20 people. So like the grift isn't just like positively enriching him, it's also actively hurting the rest of us. We'll have the link with more details about that in the show notes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then as part of that, so I'll put the transcript from the interview because I found it. I'll just put that in the block real quick for you.
There's a whole bunch of people who he's pardoned,
Mm-hmm.
who I'm always wondering. Some of the people, I wonder why he pardoned some of the people. He's been pardoning. I was reading on here because there's a whole, like, he always talk about drugs and stuff like that, right? Oh, these drug dealers and murderers and rapists and blah blah blah, drug dealers. He pardoned a shitload of people who were, trafficking in drug stuff, right? All in like a lot of them in Florida, a lot of cocaine dealers, right? Distribution of cocaine, conspiracy to possess and distributive cocaine, armed bank robbery, this and this and this, distributing methamphetamine, narcotics laws, all these, an awful lot of them. And it's always interesting. It's hard to keep up with, man. There's a Wikipedia page. The whole Wikipedia page is a list of people granted executive clemency by Donald Trump, right? And there's a whole bunch of people, and obviously there's a lot of them are the political friends and rich people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole bunch of other ones, and there's even an article on here, like a Miami New Times. It's like, here are the South Florida people Trump pardoned on his way out the door. A flurry of pardons, a whole bunch of people all about South Florida. I guarantee, like Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne, and he's a celebrity, obviously. But so many other people, and I'm wondering why he did some of the ones he does, because he never does anything for free. He doesn't do it for nothing, All these other people lately, like in the this last few months, it's all people who are giving him tons of money. You know what I mean? It's like he's straight up selling pardons left and right, But he's a crook through and through. Can't be surprised. We want to talk about next time.
Actually, so I'm gonna go back to that interview because I've been reading through this transcript, just looking for some juicy nuggets, and I want to read this portion of the conversation about the minimum wage. So Kristen Welker says, let me ask you about another aspect of the economy, sir. The minimum wage. The federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. There are 20 states that still have a federal minimum wage at $7.25, and I actually have a map. 19 of these states actually voted for you, sir. And Trump goes, right, yeah. And Christian continues, and you can see right here, I don't know if you remember this, but during the debate in 2020, I asked you if you would raise the minimum wage. You said you would consider it. And so my question for you is, now that you are going back to the White House, for these 19 states that voted for you, are you going to raise the federal minimum wage? And Trump says, it's a very low number. I will agree. It's a very low number. Let me give you the downside, though. In California, they raised it up to a very high number. And your restaurants are going out of business all over the place. The problem is shrinking. It's had a very negative impact, but there's a level at which you could do it, absolutely. And Kristen says, well, what is that level, do you think? And he says, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I can say this. you have a lot of businesses that are open and thriving because of the lower minimum wage. If you raise it too much, and you understand this, California went crazy. They went crazy. And the restaurants are closing all over. Many more people are hurt. So I hear you saying similarly to what you said in 2020. Will you consider it? Is this something you're going to look at? And Trump continues. I would consider it. I want to speak to the governors. And the other thing that's very complicated about minimum wage is places are so different. Mississippi and Alabama, in great places, are very different than New York, California. I mean, in terms of the cost of living and other things. So it would be nice to have just a minimum wage for the whole country, but it wouldn't work because you have places where it's very inexpensive to live, where a minimum wage, which is at $8 or $9, might have very little effect because the cost of living in certain places is really low. It's just like
words. I don't know.
Fucking God.
And by the way, California, if anybody remembers, 2 weeks ago, they became the 4th largest economy in the world. They grew, they took over, they beat out Japan. So now they're only behind the U.S. as a whole, China, and Germany. And then after that, it's California. And then after California, it's Japan. So, yeah,
I guess they really
crashed everything. They really crashed everything. Yeah, the California's GDP, 29.18 trillion. Wait, no, that's the U.S. 29.18 trillion. China at 18.74 trillion. Germany at 4.65 trillion. So, and then California at 4.1 trillion.
4.1 trillion.
Japan is at 4.01 trillion.
However, Trump is going after that 4.1 trillion. He's announced that he wants to do tariffs on movies. And this is such nonsense because so here's what happens, right? So take say you're the new Marvel Avengers Doomsday movie. They're filming it in London. And they're filming it in London because they can film it anywhere, right? Because it's mostly on green screens.
Well, it's no, also because they got a big tax break. They get a big tax break from the British government.
So they get a big tax break for filming it there, so it's cheaper. So say they get I don't know, say it's a $300 million budget and they get a $60 million tax rate. Just who knows if that's the real numbers, just as an example. So what are they going to then charge the tariff on? Are they going to charge it on the tax break? Are they going to charge it on the total cost of the movie? Are they going to charge it on the movie ticket? Oh, well, this movie was made in this other country, so the ticket is going to have a 10%, and it's going to be the same as whatever country it was made in. What if the animation was in one country, and the rest was? It's just it's such a web of bullshit. And then here's the thing: is a movie isn't a good; it's a service, right? Because you're not it's not a thing that you're buying; it's the ability to go see the thing. It's being able to have the thing streamed to you. So if they're going to start putting tariffs on services, well, America is a service economy, and especially California, which is has Hollywood and a lot of the centers of big tech. So are other countries going to start putting tariffs on Facebook for their ads, or putting tariffs on access to AI, or buying Microsoft Word, or et cetera, et cetera. So it's this how do you even determine what is an amount, because it's not even on a good. And the other thing that makes no sense with the fucking tariffs is that Trump's whole theory about the tariffs is well, if the trade is imbalanced, if you're buying more from them, you're losing money to them, so you have to put a tariff on them to even it out. Well, no, we export more movies, television, and film to the rest of the world than the rest of the world makes combined by many multiples.
Yeah, but we put tariffs on people like UK, who we have a trade surplus with, and Australia, we have a trade surplus on, and we're tariffing them. So we don't. That's his rationale doesn't even match what we were doing, because we're tariffing the flat 10% on people who we have a surplus with, a trade surplus.
I guess I don't know why I would expect him to be consistent to himself. I guess I'm just pointing out that he's not consistent to himself or his own ideas that are wrong about how things work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it
just a
just seems like a
stupid idea.
nonsense
It's just
idea.
stupid noise. It was an idea that went in his head. You know, he was on the shitter and had a phone in his hand, and it just came to him like the movie. It's like, oh my god. He was thinking about his cognitive decline test. Remember, man, woman, person, camera, TV. Those words went through his head, and then he's like, oh, TV, camera, tariff. We can tariff movies. Hell yeah, we're gonna make money.
Genius.
I'm a genius. And he's tweeting it out, and then I'm directing them to start getting on that. And everybody has to say, "Oh, you're the smartest man ever. You're the smartest human being who's ever lived, Trump. Oh my God, thank you so much for being president. Nobody would have ever thought about this. This country is so great, and you won by the biggest landslide of all time. And I just got up under this desk to tell you that. I will go back down and unzip your pants again. You know, and make it's a
The cabinet meeting. I'll post a video of the cabinet meeting. The cabinet meeting is so ridiculous. Just
they do that every single cabinet meeting. They actually, I think they always shoot and televise like the first few minutes of the cabinet meeting, just so he can have the cameras go around and film everybody sucking his dick for a while. And it's so funny. Oh my god! And it's so funny. Sometimes like, oh my god, the trade deal thing today, the stupid non-trade deal. Even JD Vance started to laugh when Howard. This, by the way, I'm totally stealing from Tim Miller from the Bulwark, because Howard Lutnick, the Treasury or not Treasury guy, the Commerce secretary. What is he again? Howard Lutnick.
He's Commerce Secretary.
Commerce Secretary. Yes. Perfect nickname. I can't believe I haven't used it, and it's such an easy play on his name. He just calls him Nutlick. Howard Nutlick. So Howard Nutlick was there really licking the nuts of Donald Trump, talking about how nobody else could have done this, nobody else could have come up with this and done this. And JD Vance even started to laugh, like under his breath, like started to laugh, because it's so over the top. Anyway, yeah, that's how these cabinet meetings are. It's a joke.
But they're legitimately ridiculous. Like if you imagine you hated some other kid at school and you were just like dogging each other back and forth over a period of years. Okay? Both you get into a fight one day and the teachers break it up and they take you down to the principal's office and they sit you down and they say you have to say nice things about each other. And you just say fuck that, some bullshit, whatever. But then no, you have to do it, you're not gonna be able to leave. They give you some sort of consequence that means something to you. So you do. So then you just make up the most outrageous, over the top, obnoxious bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it was. That's what it's like watching the cabinet meeting. It's just it's just so. It feels like you're watching a movie. It feels like watching fuck. What was that? What was that movie you love so much? Idiocracy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just feels like a scene, like a bit. It's like SNL or something, but it's real life. I'm amazed SNL hasn't done a cold open that's the cabinet meeting.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I can't remember where I read this. Somebody else was making this commentary, maybe a couple months ago. I can't remember when I read it or when it was written. It could have been about his first term as president. But somebody was talking about even President Camacho in Idiocracy. He was a much better president than Donald Trump is. Because even President Camacho knew that he didn't know everything. And that's why he got this guy not sure to come up here and he's going to fix everything because he's the smartest guy in the world. And he would look, and even though he didn't understand all the shit that not sure was saying, he's like, whoa, okay, well, he's smart. Let him try to fix something. He knows when somebody's smarter than him and says something, he'll listen to them. President Camacho, Terry Crews in the show. Great role for him, by the way. Better president than Donald Trump. Hands down.
Bar truly is in hell. God.
Yeah. Anyway, I got a good
okay, let's see.
I'm messaging you here a little link to a nice article about how Howard Nutlick mercilessly mocked over his over-the-top praise there. And,
Oh, yeah, let me grab... This is great. This is great screen time. Let me grab the link for the other one.
Anyway, let's see. So yeah, but the tariffs on the movie's never going to happen. The Alcatraz prison's never going to happen. Shit, man, bringing the people home from overseas. I mean, we were lucky the courts intervened and they stopped us from shipping off people to Libya because that's the next place. They were a bunch more migrants were told they were about to be sent to Libya. You know, Libya, who's in a civil war, and people, it's notorious for their prisoners being trafficked and sold into slavery and killed and whatever else. And we were about to send more plane loads of people to Libya to be disappeared. And the courts intervened and stopped that one. Don't know what the rationale would be or what the justification would be. Like, I mean, the Alien Enemies Act was stopped by the Supreme Court, being a stay on it. Who knows what they were going to try and pull by sending people to Libya?
Wait, but you mean Trinidad isn't invading the United States?
No, and court after court has been saying that the Alien Enemies Act itself is the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act is unconstitutional because very obviously we're not at war.
We're not at war?
We're not at war with them. And
what a relief.
And even the declassified memo from the CIA that came out, this week shows that all of the intelligence agencies verified that there is no connection with Trinidad and the Venezuelan government. There's not an invasion. There's no coordination from the government. Everything that they said when he invoked the Alien Enemies Act was proven to be false by our own intelligence agencies.
Well, that's so weird because Trump never lies. It's just...
Yeah. But I don't know what the rationale was to send people to Libya, of all places.
Yeah, I only know about Libya when I heard you guys talking about it in the group chat. I hadn't heard anything about Libya before that. That's pretty wild. Like, of all places. And I don't understand either because, like, we have a big private prison industry. We jail the greatest percentage of our population of any country in the world. And, like, to Trump's point, just to go back to, steel manning him,
Rwanda.
He's basically, like, we could be imprisoning people here in America for American dollars. Like, the money would stay with America. Like, why are we trading away our prisoners? Like, why are we giving somebody else that money? We should keep it here in the United States.
Yeah, but he's trying to pay them less money because these countries, like also Rwanda, apparently Rwanda confirmed, their foreign minister confirmed that Washington has been in talks with Rwanda, so we can start sending people to Rwanda. There's other countries, the country of Benin, Angola, and Eswatini were other countries that the Trump administration was reaching out to try to see if we could house people in there. I'm sure acceptable, standards for humans to live in,
Just to be, like, serious about this for a second, though, like, it's already really difficult with the shit that they do where they, like, with the ICE deportations, where, like, they pick you up in New York and then they fly you to, like, fucking Utah. Because, like, even if you're, let's say you're not going to get deported, right? Like, the Constitution says you have to be held, close to your home. Like, that's part of the Constitution, is that you have to be held like a reasonable distance from the place that you live. And that's so that you have access to your lawyers and to your family so they can come visit you. And there are lots of places, especially like detention centers where they put immigrants, that are so far away from any lawyers. And then they do all these things where it's like, well, you get there and then they tell you can't see your client or blah, blah, blah. They make some excuse. So, like, there are cases where, like, lawyers will be driving for, like, 3 or 4 hours to get to the prison one way, and then not get to have a meeting, and, like, it's a whole day shot. And, like, they do this on purpose to ice them out, to, like, make it so that people are less likely to cover them, so that there's fewer attorneys that they can call on. And they don't, most of the time they don't even have a lot of resources anyway.
Well, the whole idea about this Trump administration is to get people without letting them talk to friends or family or lawyers or courts or anybody. Just remember, everybody, most of these people that we're talking about there in El Salvador, nobody was told that they were being flown to El Salvador. They saw it on TV. They saw it when they saw their brothers and husbands or whoever, their son, being punched and head shaved and shackled, and they're like, oh my God, that's what happened to him. Oh my God, look, rewind it, oh my God. And they start freaking out and crying. It's not like they don't give a shit about letting people talk to lawyers or friends or family or doing anything legal. They don't even want to follow the law. They don't care about the law. So,
I mean, they are losing court case after court case.
Yeah, Tom Homan said he doesn't care what some judge thinks. So,
sure he doesn't.
So, anyway, luckily, hopefully we have another voice in the world to, take
Good
public
segue.
stands against Donald Trump and this horrible administration.
Who would that be?
His name is now, he changed his name today. He just did a name change. He changed his name to Pope Leo XIV.
Nice. Wait, he changed it to Pope Leo XIV?
Yeah, a lot of the popes, especially in recent days, they changed their name. His name is Robert Prevost. He's the new pope. He's born in Chicago. Spent a lot of time in Peru. Like 30 years, almost 40 years in Peru. Is in charge of whatever Latin American stuff, diocese, whatever,
Oh, he was sucking up to the last pope.
Well, he was really good. He was really tight with Pope Francis, and for the last few years he's been. I'm not even a Catholic, and I didn't follow that much. And this is new news. It's only a few hours old, so I haven't been watching it all day. But he is like one of the big. He was really close to the last pope, and apparently he was like the last pope. Pope Francis is a guy,
I see.
But yeah, another Chicagoan, and there's a few tweets. He put out a few tweets like in just the last few days. So I'm going to read his last tweet. It was a retweet, but the last tweet before he became Pope, he put out a retweet from a guy named Rocco Palmo. But it says, as Trump and Bukele use the Oval to the Fed's illicit deportation of a U.S. resident, once an undocumented El Salvadorian himself, now D.C. auxiliary something, Avelio asks, do you not see the suffering? Is your conscience not disturbed? How can you stay quiet? That was the last tweet he put out about how can, do you not see the suffering? Is your conscience not disturbed? How can you stay quiet? About the treatment of this administration on people. And the other ones too. He put out other tweets.
So basically what you're saying is Vance is going to kill him.
Well, he knocked earlier on February 3rd. He went out of his way to make a tweet. It said, J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus didn't ask us to rank our love for others.
Could you imagine though, like if Vance met this guy and he died like an hour later, and he goes 2 for 2?
The funny thing is, I think he's also of the belief that J.D. Vance may have killed the Pope. They were talking about how, yeah. Anyway, there's a what was it here? I can't remember.
I would love to see the battle between the evangelicals and the MAGA bros denouncing the Pope after the Pope is J.D. Vance totally killed the Pope.
I think they already know, because they already know that the Catholic Church, Pope, they were always against the cruelty that this administration does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they put out some tweets, and it's not huge news, but he's made a few comments here and there about treating immigrants nice and everything else, like Francis did and everything else. And this cardinal, well, now he's a pope, but when he was a cardinal, stuff about J.D. Vance is wrong, blah blah blah. When the Pope Francis died, do you think it's a coincidence that Trump, J.D. Vance, and Marco Rubio and all these people were putting out all these funny tweets about the Pope being dead? Oh my God, maybe Trump could be Pope. How they put out the AI Photoshop thing with Trump being the Pope, and then J.D. Vance saying, "Oh, there's another job opening," and then some people getting fired. "Oh, there's another job opening." Plot twist.
They put on the official White House Twitter account.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
So funny, isn't it? I mean, the Pope died. I mean, it's just so funny.
Hilarious.
So funny. Yeah, the jokes just, the jokes about Trump becoming Pope or all these other people in his administration, the people who can't even get a job, like this last guy, they wanted to be the DC attorney for Washington DC, whatever, the lead attorney for Washington DC, who Tom Tillis wouldn't support, so he can't get it because of his ties to J6 and everything else. He put out a tweet saying, "Oh, looks like I'm not getting this job. Plot twist. Maybe I have a new job coming." Talking about the conclave. I mean, I don't get why they're making so much poking fun at the Catholic Church, other than the fact that I think they know they're on the wrong side of history, and the Church doesn't like what they're doing, and they're not going to like what they're doing, so they want to try their whole. Let's just make fun of them and punch them a little bit. We'll start off acting like jokes before we start calling them criminals and rapists, I guess.
Imagine losing the moral high ground to a group that spent decades raping children and then covering it up.
Well, that's one thing this Pope is good for. And actually, this is just neither here nor there. I don't know how the Catholic Church does their rules, but this is kind of interesting too. Between Pope Francis dying and between Pope Leo XIV taking over as the Pope, they did issue a new rule, the Catholic Church, anybody who complies with the U.S. law and turns in a pedophile priest, right? And breaks these confessional type things, right? If somebody confesses about being a rapist or something like that, a child rapist, if they turn that over to the authorities, which is law in the United States, they will be excommunicated from the church. You got to protect the kid rapists.
Of course.
Got to. Excommunication.
Dude, why doesn't the Pope just make it cool for priests to have have romantic relationships that include sex? Just change, you can change the rule. You'd be like, hey guys, God just gave me the patch notes, and he was just update, get your dicks wet, it's cool, just adults only though, okay?
I think that actually happened. This is a couple years ago. Pope Francis, he said there's no contradiction for a priest to marry. Celibacy in the Western Church is a temporary prescription. I don't know if it's settled in one way or the other, but it's temporary in this sense. It says it's not eternal like priestly ordination, which is forever. Whether you leave it or not is another matter, but it's forever. On the other hand, celibacy is a discipline. But I remember he had talking before.
He was floating it. He was floating yeah, maybe you guys just bang it out. Don't be so pedo-y. Just get women or something. Just have sex with each other. You're into weird dudes, and you are weird dudes. Just make out.
Yeah, but he had talked about it, I think, before, and he said it's a matter of discipline, not of faith. So he was talking about lifting celibacy before. So he said it could be revised. He said pre-celibacy could be revised. He wasn't really in favor of it. But
they should.
So I guess I did not. He said celibacy may not remain mandatory. I can't remember, but I remember there was talk about it, whether or not they would get rid of it.
Probably make the nuns a lot less angry, also. It'd be good for it'd be good for the children on multiple fronts.
Yeah, but either way, this Pope and everybody else, I mean, this Pope, just like all the other cardinals, I mean, he has his little skeletons in the closet too. I mean, he helped cover it up. He helped cover up pedophile priests. I mean, they all do. So shocking.
Yeah, they all did.
But hey, whataboutism? It's not like the president doesn't rape kids. I mean, he did it. Trump did it. So allegedly, there you go. I can't get sued or put in prison.
It's just amazing that
allegedly
he had such good things to say about Jeffrey Epstein, and then even after after she was convicted, it was what's her name? Was it Maxine?
Actually, I don't want to say allegedly anymore because he was convicted. Never mind. I forgot. I don't know.
No, he was convicted.
Kids was allegedly. Yeah. Because of
Kids was allegedly
the girl who killed herself.
I don't think it's he was convicted. I think it's he's an adjudicated sexual offender, technically.
Yes, but he was accused of raping children also,
He was found guilty
He was found
of
guilty of sexual assault.
disparaging someone
No,
by saying who said that he raped her.
Yes, and the judge even said, "Don't get it twisted. This would be called rape by anybody and any other." When he was found guilty, the judge even said it was rape.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we know he's rapey. I'm just saying, I think it was some legal gymnastics there, and exactly how the
just
thing was
remember
worded.
Just remember Virginia Guffrey, and April 25th, she killed herself. By the way, allegedly. Everybody should remember her. She was the one who was a teenager working at Mar-a-Lago, who was recruited by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell down there, from Mar-a-Lago, and she just ended up dead. So
Great. I mean, there was like people. Didn't he have like multiple people who were accusing him of like suing him for rape, and during his first time running for president, and they like backed off or something?
I don't know. I mean, shit, Ivana did. This one here, Trump rape charges. I mean, it's kind of hard. God, trying to find any allegations. Here we go. Let's see. He's been accused of rape, sexual harassment, including non-consensual groping by at least 25 women since the 70s. It goes way back. It's not just political stuff. I mean, it happened way back in the 70s, Jill Harth in 92. Katie Johnson, 94. Of Trump and Epstein. Yeah, she accused Trump and Epstein of it back in 94. E. Jean Carroll, 96. Summer Zervo. Oh, yeah, Summer Zervos, 2007. I remember her too. Jesus. Alva Johnson, 2016. As unwanted. Something else. Johnson said 2 people, including Pam Bondi, the then Attorney General of Florida, saw him forcing himself, kissing her. And who was the other one here? Teen Vogue. Oh, she worked for the Trump campaign.
Dude, Uncle Toms are the worst.
She had sick days. She called in sick every day until she could speak to a lawyer. In addition to the unwanted sexual attention, also alleged that she was a victim of gender discrimination. Whatever. There's other ones too, but I mean, he's had a lot of ones. Jessica Leeds, Kirsten Anderson, Stacey Williams, Lisa Boyne, Kathy Heller, Temple McDowell, Amy Doris, Karina Virginia, Karen Johnson, Mindy McGillivray. This is back in 2003. Rachel Crooks, 2005. Natasha Stoynoff, 2005. She's a Canadian author and journalist. Jessica Drake, 2006. Juliette Huddy, 2005. Nina Lockinson, 2006. Cassandra Searles, 2013. I mean, Jesus. The Karina Virginia was 1998, 97, 97, 97, 96, 93, 1990, 1980. They go way back. He's been accused of rape and shit. I mean, a lot.
Basically, what you're saying is there's a lot of Donalds out there.
This is all Donald. Yeah, there's the Miss Teen USA contestants who sued. Let's see. A bunch of them. Miss New Hampshire USA in 2000. Tasha Dixon, 2001. Unnamed contestants in 2001. Samantha Holvey, 2006. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. So, anyway. Creepy guy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's
Make America great again. Anyway, all right. Enough of Trump, man. Shit. Yeah. That's a lot of Trump. We got the Pope.
That's a lot of. There's a long, disgusting block of shitty orange maggot. Let's talk about. Tell us about FEMA switching to grant money. So what's this all about?
Well, that's what they want to do. They want to get rid of FEMA, right? They want to get rid of FEMA. They say they're ending whatever. This is from April 4th. They said FEMA's ending the Another programming, constantly of these applications here. I don't know if they want to get. I know they want to get rid of it. They haven't yet. I mean, I don't think they can. They have a non-disaster grants management system that they already do, where they give grants to states, things like that. But they want to just get rid of FEMA outright. They don't want to have the federal government with its resources and capacity to do huge, big, major things in a crisis. They don't want to give that stuff to states.
They don't want to have payouts that they can't weaponize or control in some way.
So, I mean, and rather than the federal government coming in there and swooping in and, being able to do everything, they want to be able to provide grant money to states that are ravaged to pay for itself. Hey, your entire state's blown up and you have no electricity, no power, and your radios are out and everything's destroyed. And, but hey, we'll give you money. And if we give you money, I'm sure you can finance getting help from out of state, from having people come in from other places and bring in everything yourself, right? That's more cost effective, right?
Just like a school vouchers for states kind of deal.
Yeah. So this way, huge, massive, fires or something, maybe in California, they'll say, oh, we could give you money. Or what will most likely happen is they want to have a block grant. So they say, well, I know you had a big fire and all, and we would give you money if we really thought it was a disaster, but we don't really think it's so much of a disaster. What we think is the real disaster is your illegal immigrants that you refuse to round up and put in camps for us. So you're not getting a dime. And that's what they want to do with the grant money. So, yeah.
Despicable.
I don't know. I don't think... First of all, a lot of the shit they want to do, there's a reason why only like 3 or 4 laws have been passed and 2 of them are nonsense stuff, There's like a budget reconciliation thing, that's about it. I mean, there's a reason why there's no laws and it's just executive orders. Because nothing's really officially changed. And everything you do like executive order, the next president can just come in and undo, And
well, why is that, though, actually? Why wouldn't they make things as law so it would be sturdier?
Because they don't want to vote for this shit. They don't want to be on a record voting for this shit.
But why? I mean, this is the other thing about Trump that I wanted to bring up that I forgot. It's that he's been going around on video multiple times. We'll have some links you can watch. It come from the fucking horse's mouth.
It was rigged. It was a good thing.
Talking about how the election was rigged.
Yeah.
He's saying it in multiple places in the speech. He's bragging about it. He's like, oh, it's a good thing it was rigged. We sent Elon out to Pennsylvania, and he knows everything about computers. And, he rigged it up real good. It was sure won by a lot. That Elon got it done for us. Yeah. It's multiple different speeches in front of, he knows he's on camera. It's not like candid, he's like talking to like Putin in the background. Didn't realize he was on a hot mic. It's like he's giving speeches and bragging about it openly. We'll have the video in the show notes. It is the most.
Yeah, and I know that Snopes, because Snopes always does good fact checking, that a lot of Republican people started saying that Snopes is somehow biased, even though they give perfect context to everything, and they totally, sometimes to my dismay, they say, "Oh no, that's fake," But yeah, that's totally correct attribution. In March 2025, video of the U.S. President Trump saying they rigged the election and I became president, circulated the internet. Many claiming he's referring to the 2020 election, which doesn't make sense because if he says they rigged the election and I became president, because he didn't do that one there, as opposed to 2024 election. And it says, but he said it here just is during the FIFA World Cup 2026 executive order presser is when the times he was saying it. So there's time. Video is authentic. Circulated clip is from the news. There's another one. Circulated clip is from a news conference on March 7th, 2025, which he met with the International Federation of Association of Football president, whatever. And yeah, he goes, the quote is, when we made this plan, it was made during my first term. And it was so sad because I said, can you imagine? I'm not going to be president, and that's too bad. And what happened? They rigged the election, and I became president. So that was a good thing. That was quite an achievement for both of us. So I'll be president now during the World Cup. So he's saying they rigged the election, and I became president. Says, yeah. So who knows? But he also said about Trump, or he said about Elon and the computers. He made that one too. So yeah, he's said this a couple times now, which kind of leads to the whole thing, like with Stephen Colbert, man, talking to Rachel Maddow the other day, and like his worry. He's like, they're not acting like they're worried about what the public thinks. Yeah, sure, public is really coming out against them, and he's really underwater in polling, and everybody's flocking away and very disapproval. His disapproval is higher than his approval in every category now, even on immigration and everything. They all blame it. 60-something% of Americans believe that we're going to be in recession because of Trump, and they're like, but they're not acting, they're not governing as if they have a care in the world about the elections coming up in 18 months, and he said that's what
this is what I've been saying for weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, so we'll see.
I mean, and it goes back, like, even like these are, contextually him talking about how he rigged it, but the other ones are there's also the video from before where he was like talking to like the evangelicals or something, in the election cycle before the 24 election. And he was saying, like, go out and vote this one last time, and then we'll rig it, and you won't have to ever vote again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I just feel, like the Russians were allegedly in the voting machines, for the 2016 thing. So, who knows?
So, all right. So, anyway, yeah. Let's hopefully the protests keep up. Hopefully the polls keep dropping, and hopefully it's too big to rig next time. So
hopefully.
All right, we got a lot of other things to talk about, and not much time to talk about them at all.
Okay, well, you want to do Hegseth? You want to do the war block? You want to skip Hegseth and just go to the war block?
Well, just in case people don't know, we can just really quickly touch on it. Just in case people thought the whole Signal shit was old news, the Signal chats. It wasn't even Signal. They were using an app called Telemessage, which is kind of like, if anybody remembers the old days when Gabe here got me onto a thing called Trillion, which is when you had a million different messengers. You had AOL Instant Messenger, and you had Yahoo Messenger, and you had...
what a deep cut, dude.
Something else, and all these other messaging services.
But like the main one was AIM. But AIM. Trillion was... that was such a good app.
Yeah, so Gabe had me download Trillion, so we could have all of our messengers in one spot, right? That is what they're using. They're using this thing called Telemessage. It's like a Signal clone. You can use Signal. You can use all these other different messaging apps, all built into this one.
Well, so like the government actually has contracts with Telemessage, and like the reason that they do is because it gets rid of the part, like the disappearing messages part.
Yeah.
So you can hang on to them for government records.
Yeah, but apparently you can also put Signal in there with it. But either way, and those ones still disappear. But that's how they're trying to use it to get around it. But they're super easy to hack. Like, literally, you can just look at the metadata of the messages and like just open up like a Google. If anybody doesn't know on computers, if you're using a Google browser, you can hit those three little bars in the top right corner of your computer on the browser, and you go down to where it says More Tools, and then go to where it says Developer Tools. And there's a bunch of text and a bunch of blah blah gobbledygook text comes in here, and little elements, right? There's elements, and you can look at all the things on a web page. And if you're looking at this stuff, you can actually just read the messages that Pete Hegseth sent. And so people were, and apparently it's really easy to get into. People were getting in there and screenshotting all kinds of things and messages, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that actually really happened." You can get all the addresses of people who are sending messages, and the times of their timestamps of the messages sent, and everything else. And they were seeing all these people from Department of Homeland Security and from all these other .gov addresses, and they're like, "Holy shit! Everybody's using this compromised app, that's been hacked." So, yeah, It gets worse. And it turns out that Pete Hegseth did not just give classified information on this app on his personal phone when Steve Witkoff was on his personal phone in Russia. So Russia was reading everything and everybody else was. But he's had about 16 different conversations like this now it's come out. And
those are the ones we know about?
Yeah, at least 16 that we know about, giving all kinds of sensitive information. Some of it is trivial as his schedules, but in case you didn't know, if you're the defense secretary or the president of the United States or the vice president, maybe the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, every country around the world will spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe a lot more than that, to surveil you. Because you are a really good target for surveillance. They want to see what you know. And if they know that you're using these apps, which they all knew, they are a huge target. So, yeah, you may not be able to surveil everybody, but given a few hundred millions of dollars and teams of people, with you being the singular target, I bet it's more likely than not that other countries' governments are spying on him.
So let me get this straight. You're telling me that the drunken definitely had like a sex crime that he like paid hush money, like just always most known for being a drunk. That the Fox guy, the weekend TV host, you're telling me that guy doesn't know how to keep a secret?
Yeah, he does not.
Next you'll be telling me that he's not good at running the world's largest agency.
Doesn't appear that way. I don't think I need to say it. I think his evidence. I think his actions speak for itself there. Anyway, that's about it on Pete Hegseth. I did make sure I put you a link, by the way. It's an NPR article that shows all the other countries that we're trying to outsource humans to.
Where did you put it in the Notion, or where did you put it?
No, the chat here on Studio Chat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, the one I put up earlier is That's
what all those beeps were. I'm like, where are those beeps?
There you go. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, in other news, by the way, India and Pakistan, if you don't know, because there's a new pope and Trump's such a fuck up, right? India and Pakistan are at war now. And,
sweet.
Yeah. So, stay tuned. We'll see what happens there. And
they both have nukes, right?
They do both have nukes.
Sure, that's what this will end well.
War, basically, before they both got nukes. Like, oh wow, we both have nukes. Let's not war. Now the funny thing is, me and Gabe were actually talking about this right before we filmed.
Wait, hold on. Just one very quick additional Hegseth. Dude paid like millions of dollars to have a makeup room put into the Pentagon so he could look good for camera interviews. Yeah. Fucking pansy. Okay. Anyway, go back to the India and Pakistan being at war now.
Government efficiency. It is more efficient to have millions of dollars makeup studio put in your office for your Pentagon job.
It's more efficient to just hire an ugly dude, and then when he goes on camera, they're just like, yup, still ugly. Like, nothing to see here. Probably real good at killing dudes. And like,
what's even more efficient? Having a Pentagon spokesperson, a spokesman, which they pay, who can talk without worry of being drunk. That's even better. Anyway, so me and Gabe were talking about the largest dogfight in world history since World War II. Anyway, 125 planes between Pakistan and India going at it.
There's a lot of planes.
This morning. A lot of planes.
That is like 3 or 4. What's the name of the movie? It was in my brain and it left it. What's the movie? It's not Mission Impossible. I just get
125 planes. It's a lot of planes. You talking about Independence Day? I don't know. There's a lot of planes in there.
Top Gun. That's like 5 or 6 Top Guns. I'm so sorry that I fucking riffed it in the moment, but that's like 5 or 6 Top Guns worth of planes.
That's a lot more than 5 or 6 Top Guns. I mean, you figure the most iconic scenes in Top Gun, right? Or Top Gun 2. I'll put them both in there, right? I love these movies. I grew up watching Top Gun over and over and over again. Yeah, first one, But yeah, I mean, in both those 2 movies, the big dog fights were like 8 planes,
Yeah, there were more planes in the background. Like there were planes on the aircraft carrier.
Oh yeah, sure. But I'm talking about actual
planes on the aircraft carrier.
We're talking about actual fighting though. They had 125 planes fighting, and we were laughing because we're talking about. I was like, when they both have nukes, right? And you're talking about how, hey, when they both got nukes, they kind of stopped warring because they're like, whoa, shit, we could both start nuclear war. Let's just stop warring. We're not going to like each other, but let's stop warring. So I think is interesting. We were talking about this before. 125 planes, biggest dogfight, since World War II, and neither plane crossed the border, which is the funny thing about it. Neither plane had to cross the border because military planes have come so far. They were all able to shoot, beyond visual range, missiles off 100 miles across, each other. And we were talking, it's like, what? Dogfight? 100 miles apart? I mean, what? They're on both sides of the border? I'm like, yeah. So we started doing the math on this. And it's actually more funny than you think about, because we started doing the math like a backward, like we're doing like an SAT test. If two planes are traveling towards each other at Mach 1.3, and they're 100 miles apart, how soon would they touch? And apparently it's pretty damn quick, man. So, yeah. Anyway, I thought it's interesting, though, that they stayed on their own sides of the border. It's like they want to prove, they both want to swing their dicks around, but they don't really want to commit to flying over and actually maybe escalating it. Although it's a pretty big escalation, 125 planes going at it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, they're like shooting missiles back and forth at each other into the countries and hitting shit. So I mean, that's before the planes. So yeah, I mean,
yeah. So there's war.
That's pretty crazy. But you know what? Let me just be the first one to say, India and Pakistan would never have gone to war on Joe Biden's watch.
They wouldn't have.
Back when Joe Biden was president, they respected him too much to go to war. They were like, nope, we're not going to do it. We hate each other, but we love Joe, so not going to do it. But bitch ass Donald Trump came out here swinging his tariff dick around, his Putin cum-stained cheeks around.
Oh, I did think there was I thought it was ironic and funny that the Taliban issued their statement, wanting peace. Anyway.
Go on.
They are calling for restraint and de-escalation to prevent instability in the region. Those peaceful Taliban people who have completely went back on everything they said they were going to do. That deal with Trump, The
Taliban was calling on India and Pakistan to
not be at war. Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Like, guys,
you have to stop fighting, man. I mean, we only fought for 20 years.
Guys, come on. Look, it's not worth it. All right. Like, what are you going to do? Make them spend another $1 trillion? Come on.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's about it. We had about time before. You said you always want to do what could go right, what could go wrong, right? What can go right? I'm optimistic a little bit in what can go right with Ukraine, because President Xi, and by the way, Scott Bessent had to testify before Congress and say that, yes, Donald Trump was full of shit. There's been absolutely no communications with China regarding a deal. So all of the talk they've been saying about how they've been talking, we're close to a deal. Scott Bessent had to testify in Congress, and yes, he admitted under oath that's bullshit. No deals. And President Xi, very prominently in Moscow for the Victory Day parade, making a big statement, show of force. He's going to be sitting right next to Vladimir Putin, big sign that they are locked in together. And
I like where this is going.
Ukraine signed a minerals deal. I kind of think that maybe the Trump administration is going to realize they can get a better deal, or at least saving face. They can make it look like they're getting a better deal, right? And that's what matters, right? Publicity. If they stick with Ukraine, so maybe Ukraine won't get the total shaft that they really wanted to give Ukraine when they came in. That's what can go right.
You took that a different way than I thought you were going to take it.
No, I think Ukraine's chances for stuff is on the upswing. I mean, you even have Trump saying, well, one of them is close, one of them not so close, and I don't know, maybe Putin's tapped me along, and now she's there, and we don't like China. China's very publicly saying, yeah, we're with Russia. They're not even trying to play, weird.
Yeah, I actually saw a headline the other day that said, it was J.D. Vance saying that Russia is demanding too much.
Yes, but
It's like, wow. Like,
exactly. So I think the tide's turning. I think maybe everybody's starting to get to them a little bit. You know, you have shit. Ben Shapiro, man, fucking Ben Shapiro did a big old interview with Zelensky. You know, and very publicly telling all the MAGA folks, "Fucking Putin's horrible, man. This is the guy we're supposed to be supporting." You know, so maybe. I mean, you vilify the good guy for so long that so many of the MAGA people think Zelensky's the bad guy. You know, it takes a little bit of time to work on him, I guess, to undo that.
I mean, Putin's been the bad guy for like 40 years.
Not to Trump, he hasn't. He's been a savior, man. Or
But like to
Russia's.
America.
Yeah, but who cares about that? Trump, man. Trump only cares about Trump. Trump cares about Trump. It's like Abu Dhabi, man. Who cares what? We give them the best AI chips, the most advanced AI chips ever, because they bought Trump meme coins. Doesn't matter what they do for America. It's not what they do for America. They gave Trump meme coins. They bought $2 billion in Trump meme coins, so the country of Abu Dhabi gets access to all these chips. What does America get? America got its president richer. Win-win. That's how you operate. So that's why I think you go right.
not to steel man him, but that is a pretty good deal for Trump.
Yeah. So that's my what can go right. I think Ukraine's going to be on the upswing here.
Okay, this isn't my what I think will go right, but this is what I thought yours was going to be. Because Ukraine has been using fiber optic drones to hit deeper into Russia, and Putin was asking for a ceasefire during the parade, and Zelensky said, I can't guarantee the safety of other world leaders at this parade. So I thought your what could go right was going to be that like they're going to drone attack and hit Putin and Xi with the same drone.
Well, I hope they do. And there's a good chance that some drones might fly in there, but more likely than not, any drones that go in there are going to be in the area. Maybe they just land. I love this idea they had. Somebody said, "Hey, maybe they just go in there and they land a drone in front of the military parade. No explosives, just to send a signal that they can throw a drone in there. And look at that, they just landed a drone right on top of the military parade without an explosive, just to send a message. That would be beautiful."
Yeah, that'd be pretty big. I mean, I don't know if I would like it as much as
blowing them up. Yes.
Deleting like video of Putin getting deleted.
My hope would have been the most massive tens of thousands of drones in unison, all going to the Victory Day parade to blow up tens of thousands of Russians and their tanks and everything else, and just making a mockery of the whole Russian defense. You know,
I love it.
That would have been beautiful.
That would be gorgeous. I would love that. Okay, what is my what could go right
or wrong?
My what could go right? I feel like I've been very pessimistic the last few weeks, so I'm gonna switch around and be optimistic. My optimism is something like this. Here's what could go right. Trump could realize that he's made so much money that he doesn't need to keep the grift going. That he's good. And he could cave to the public pressure and not rig the next election and lose the midterms. And that the Democrats, then I'm just going to just wildly pipe dream it out to the end, and the Democrats could take both the House and the Senate and then impeach him and convict him.
Well,
no, that's too much. I went too far. That's too much optimism.
Yeah, impeaching and convicting, man, I don't think we're going to get 67 senators in this. But, yeah. But hey, would love it.
I would love it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll talk next week.
All right.
All right. Anything else before we go? Departing words of wisdom?
Actually, there was one other thing. So this is a quote from John Steinbeck's Depression era classic, The Grapes of Wrath. It is among the top 100 books banned in America. And here's just a quote, a little passage from chapter 25. There is a crime here that goes beyond denunciation. There is a sorrow here that weeping cannot symbolize. There is a failure here that topples all our successes. The fertile earth, the straight tree rows, the sturdy trunks, and the ripe fruit, and the children dying of hunger must die because a profit cannot be taken from an orange. And coroners must fill in the certificates, died of malnutrition, because the food must rot if not sold at a profit. But in the eyes of the hungry, there is a growing wrath. In the souls of the people, the grapes of wrath are filling and growing heavy for the vintage. Oh, that's pretty sick. Yeah. Very, protesty.
I'm sorry to make a joke, but when you said you can't get the profit out of an orange, I started laughing thinking about Donald Trump's an orange.
All right, folks. Good night and good luck.
All right. Bye.